Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 20th, and I thought it would be an interesting time for us to perhaps take a look at something called absorption rate, or you might have heard it referred to as clearing the shelf or emptying the shelf. Well, what does that mean? So that's what we're going to talk about today. When you hear one of those terms, clearing the shelf, emptying the shelf, or absorption rate, what that deals with is how long does it take for the homes that are currently on the market to actually be sold, right? So if we're thinking that the market is, let's say, Montclair, for example, so there's a certain number of homes which are on the market listed as available to the general public, right? And based on supply and demand, so the number of homes that are on the market versus how many people are in the market looking for a home, that kind of tells us how quickly homes are being sold and how quickly we can clear the shelf. So what I did is I went to Garden State MLS, GS MLS is what we refer to it as, and I just wanted to take a look at three different markets. So I looked into Montclair, then I figured, let me look at something that's right next door. So I took a look at Glen Ridge. And then just to get something completely different, I decided I'm going to pull up Newark. I'm looking into single family residences, and I wanted to see what is the absorption rate in these three different places, right? So the Glen Ridge market, of course, is a much smaller market. It's a smaller town, right? The borough of Glen Ridge. So when we're looking at since May 1st, how many homes are active, it looks like there are 16 active properties that are on the market. Now, since May 1st, there have been 8 properties which have actually sold. So not under contract, but actually sold and closed. That's a good sign. It's good to see that there are homes that are selling, and especially since we're only halfway through May, that's not bad. It'd be interesting to see what the numbers were, say, a year ago when we likely had more homes on the market. The pre-COVID, post-COVID numbers are going to be very different, right? So then when we look at 8 active properties in Glen Ridge in comparison with 16 active properties in Glen Ridge in comparison to 8 properties which have sold, that means that there's about a 2-month supply of active homes on the market, right? When we come to a town like Montclair, which Montclair is not a big town, but it is definitely a larger town than Glen Ridge, Montclair, since May 1st, had 55 active single-family properties on the market. When we look at what has sold since May 1st, there are 32 homes which have sold in Montclair since May 1st. That's interesting. When we look at how many months of supply of inventory there is, Montclair has about 1.72 months supply of inventory. Now, that seems to be, that's a very low number. Ideally, the month supply is like 3 months. And also it depends on the price point. But, in Montclair, the average home sells for maybe 650, all things considered. So that is a very low amount of inventory that we have at this time. And we know that there are some different factors that are affecting what homes are listed, right? Because there are some people who feel very strongly that they would rather wait until this pandemic has subsided, right? And I can understand that and I can respect that. On the flip side, I can say based on having a 1.2-month supply of inventory, that means that things are moving fairly quickly. So when I'm coaching a buyer, I let them know, listen, there are very few homes that are on the market. So if you are a serious buyer, you need to come to the table prepared and ready to move quickly when you find a home that makes sense for your situation, right? And then when I'm talking to a seller, I'm explaining to them, because there is a limited supply of homes, you should anticipate that anyone who views that really great walkthrough video that you have online, anyone who's looking at your virtual open house, or if they have requested an in-person tour of your home, well, we're going to do our best to make sure these people are serious and that they are definitely qualified to purchase. And then that's going to show you that, you know what, we're likely to get your home sold pretty quickly, just based on the fact that there's just a such a low number of available homes on the market. Now, I wanted to throw a big city in there just to see how different that information would be. So in Newark, there are 135 active single family properties. Since May 1st, there have been 25 which has sold. To me, that's a pretty low number. But then I think about the fact that it is a city and many of the homes in Newark are multifamily properties, right? So I'm sure if I go in and I take a look at the multifamily properties, we're going to see drastically different numbers. So because there have been 25 homes which have actually closed and sold on the market in Newark since May 1st, they actually have a 5-month supply of homes. So that means that if someone is looking to get a home in Newark, they have better odds because there is a larger number of properties in that market. So just because we're comparing single family homes, I think it would also be helpful because I do happen to many investors in particular who are looking to acquire multifamily properties. I'm going to just take a quick look on the MLS, and I'm going to pull up over the last month multifamily properties for those same areas. Now, of course, Glenridge has hardly any multifamilies. Montclair has a few. So let's just see what comes up. As expected, Glenridge has 0 active or sold. They really do have very few multifamily properties. And the ones that are seemingly on the market, they tend to be rentals, right? And the rentals do go pretty quickly, but I don't have that kind of information available to me at this moment. So in Montclair, I can see there were 6 active multifamily properties in Montclair, and there were 0 sold so far. That's really interesting. I did hear about some properties which are either in attorney review or under contract, which happen to be multifamily properties. But really what I wanted to look at is Newark. So in Newark, there are 214 multifamily properties which are available on the Garden State MLS. And since May 1st, 34 of them have sold. So I actually thought this number was going to be a lot higher. So I find it interesting. I do frequently actually show multifamily properties in Newark, and I found it to be pretty difficult to get into that market because usually those properties are moving very quickly. So according to this report, though, when I look at the months of supply, it says 6.29, which is interesting. Because again, I find it quite difficult to even get in to show a property. Sometimes it depends on the status of the home, like whether or not it's safe for you to enter, meaning if there are structural issues or if there are tenants in the home, you know, that certainly affects whether or not you can actually get in to show a home to a potential buyer. But something else that's going to affect the number of actives versus the number of solds is how many of these properties are bank owned. Bank owned properties don't move as quickly normally as a privately owned multifamily dwelling that's for sale. So I'm sure that's something else that affects the months of supply for multifamily properties in Newark. So let's just look at something else. I'm going to go 3 months back For residential properties, I'm going to remove Newark, but I'm going to pick something that's pretty comparable to Montclair. Let's go to Maplewood. That's our sister town, right? Let's take a look at that. So when I look back over, let's see, 3 months back, so in Glen Ridge, there were 16 properties which were active, 16 sold, 3 months of supply. In Maplewood, there were 34 active properties. They had 68 which were sold with a 1.5 month supply. And then in Montclair, there were 55 actives, 70 had sold, and the month of supply was 2.36. So it's interesting. We know that there definitely was a hiccup with the market for sure because of COVID-19. So it honestly did affect whether people were listing their homes, if people were able to go out and actually view homes in person to move forward and purchase. So I find it really interesting that over the last 3 months, the Garden State MLS is showing that the average sold per month in Montclair was 23.33 homes. That's really interesting. So I just wanted to jump on for a few minutes and just talk about what's happening in the market. You can feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss the market trends with you. My name is Tiffany Booker, and I am a Realtor Associate with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, New Jersey Properties. My office is located at 695 Bloomfield Avenue in Montclair. I can be reached at 973-460-4674. I hope you all are well. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions at all concerning real estate. Take care.